Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Konzelman, Betterment Director of Stakeholder Engagement. And today, as part of our Fireside Chats with our Board of Directors, I'm super pleased to have Kim Bryden join us to talk about all kinds of things, why and how she founded her company Cureate, how some of those skills tie into land betterment, and just having a nice deep dive and learning more about Kim. So please say hello.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So as I mentioned, Kim is the founder and CEO of Cureate, which is a social enterprise, women-owned business building an empowered food and beverage supply to meet a changing consumer demand, which was founded in 2014. And the company has quickly become a tested model of supply and demand matchmaking, connecting small businesses, supply chains, in an environment that's been fragmented for a really long time. So, Kim, can you tell us a little bit about why? Why did you found a company like this?
Hmm. Yeah, it's really specific. And I think one of the main things that keeps coming up for me from the beginning of when I started Curate 8 years ago, even to today, is that curiosity of why do we have to keep operating in the way that we always have? And that there are certain systems that are no longer serving us and they just keep occurring because of inertia or because of powers that be. And so when I founded this 8 years ago was from that fire in my belly that was like, I'd like to work with businesses who actually have stable cash flow, who actually have a business model, and not just the unicorns in the media of their multi-million dollar valuations, but yet they're netting significant losses year over year. So, who are these businesses that are really bedrocks of their community and generating a lot of economic impact in their neighborhoods and jobs that people want? And so that really sparked that why in me.
Yeah.
And with food in particular, I I see the world as a system and how food touches so many of our systems.
Totally. I love food. I exercise so I can eat food, right?
Yeah,
Food is
yeah,
so important to all of us in so many different ways.
yeah, right. Self-care. It could also be science, it's history, it's culture, it's economic development, it's literal GDP economics, right? There's so many facets that food touches. And ultimately, I'm a marketer and storyteller in my heart. And I see food as somebody's heart on a plate. And
Totally.
so that evolution of me having more of this curiosity, creativity side meshed now with business. And what does that mean for you to, as a consumer, see your dollar as a way to invest every day in the world you want to live in is a story and a mission that, I live by each day. And I'm trying to spread that word to the larger community that you have that choice and power as well.
Interesting, really interesting. So originally, this company, Curate, was in the Mid-Atlantic region, and about a year ago, actually, we put the press release out on 21st of September, so really a year ago, you moved into Northwest Arkansas. Can you share more about us, about why there, and where are you going next? Or you can't share that with us?
Yeah, well, why the Heartland? Yeah, very, very interesting story. So earlier in 2021, actually, I'm going to rewind to COVID times. Half of our business is local purchasing, where we work with anchor institutions like universities and hospitals and convention centers to shift their purchasing dollars into small local business.
Okay.
Other half of our business is working with those small businesses on building better business practices through our entrepreneurship education. So that's the supply and demand.
Right. So by doing that, those smaller companies might be
Get
saving
into
more
the
by those bigger companies.
exactly supply and demand matchmaking cycle, or dare I say, curating the connection. Uh, and
You
so
should say
during
that.
yeah, so during COVID, you can imagine the purchasing side of our business took a hit. And prior to COVID, I had already been exploring what does it look like for us to grow outside of DC and Baltimore, just in general. And I thought that might mean growing up towards Philly or down towards Richmond, which is still not out of the question. But because I had this time and space to think about what does our business look like just in a new metro area in general, I got in a car and I started driving west.
Seriously?
Yes.
I had
So
a whole other thing in my head why you had moved to Arkansas. That's really
yeah.
cool.
So I just started driving and I scheduled interviews with small town mayors. The mayor of Cynthiana, Kentucky, as an example, he was amazing, to a brewery in Southern Illinois. So I just plotted my course of figuring out how were different people adapting and innovating during a phase of, a pandemic, right? Were people just closing up shop and just throwing up their hands and being like, oh, well, Amazon, Walmart, like, forget it? Or were they going to stick around? And by the time I got to Missouri, I was hearing loud and clear from the heartland, we're going to stay open, sort of like in defiance of the man. Like, let's keep this going. And I was like, wow, yes, loving this energy. And so then I got to Northwest Arkansas, where is the headquarters of Walmart and JB Hunt and Tyson's. And I started recognizing a lot of campaigns to attract people to the region to work at these companies.
Right.
And so I talked to the different economic development departments and just wanted to learn more about what they were doing to increase more of a local and regional food system, because people moving from Austin or San Francisco or Chicago want to feel connected to place. I mean, all people want to feel connected to place. And so what was that strategy alongside this sort of tier one Fortune 100, Fortune 1 business? And I told them more about what we do at Cureate. And we then aligned with different partners in the area, particularly with Forge. That's the oldest revolving loan fund in Arkansas, got their roots in agriculture. And with that partnership, we were able to be recruited to Northwest Arkansas to open a second hub and launched Cureate Courses, our entrepreneurship education arm, a year and a half ago.
Wow.
So we've already worked with 20 businesses. We're about to launch 3 more cohorts, which will be another 60 businesses. Another 30 businesses. I misspoke. In the next year. So
that's really cool. Well, this is all about you, to solidify your point about businesses saying, yeah, we're going to keep going. In addition to my hat at Land Betterment, we also own a restaurant here in Boothbay Harbor, Maine. And we've had the most successful 3 years in our history. And people are so psyched to connect with us, right? Yeah. Because we're a small business and, people moved up here from the big cities and they found this cute little restaurant and the connection. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
And that's absolutely what's happening in Northwest Arkansas. People are leaving big cities. They're seeing the beauty of the Ozarks, the space, the opportunity that's being generated, and want to be buying from and shopping at probably restaurants comparable to your own, right? Want to not go to Olive Garden or whatever.
Exactly.
No dissing Olive Garden.
But there's no community connection there. Right. Wow. I'm so happy we're able to have this conversation today.
Yeah.
So another thing, and I was, going through your LinkedIn page and trying to make sure I knew everything about you and Cureate. And I found a really interesting quote that you said, and it's as follows. Not only are we creating sales opportunity for small businesses, but we're sparking joy for staff and guests with new, unique offerings inside place of work. So we touched on this, I think, a little bit, but I think there's more behind that than what we've discussed so far.
Yeah. So this definitely is anchored in the purchasing side of the business. And a lot of times when people are rethinking what they're buying in these large spaces, like a university or a hospital or a convention center, typically, I'm sure you as a consumer have gone to those spaces and the products are pretty comparable to what you might find in a gas station, right? It's like Slim Jims, Mountain Dews, Fig Newtons, if you go to a convention center buffet, it's always those par baked muffins that are baked out, those tiny little cream cheeses, the Welch's jellies, you pretty much know
Right.
what's going to happen.
Right.
And so there's been this shift in the way those spaces want to have an association with food. It might be sustainability initiatives, it might be diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that people are realizing, oh, this money is coming out of my community and then going into another, like just one multinational buying from another multinational. And so in those spaces, they can often feel devoid of that community connection of what we were just talking about, going to that local restaurant, because it's just sort of structured.
It's always been that way.
Structured concepts. This is your purchase list. This is what you're doing. And so that's one piece of the puzzle. And then the other side is that food service industry at large has experienced massive staffing shortages. And so, yeah. And so for the small business owner that saw a reduction in foot traffic potentially, how could they have a dedicated audience and dedicated sales opportunity if they were embedded into one of those systems? If they knew, if I'm doing a pop-up inside of a hospital, there's dedicated foot traffic that are feeding X amount of people per day, or inside of a corporate office, those people are going to be there each day. So we try to figure out, where is there both this uniqueness for product, because we're just eating the same things over and over and like people are bored. And then two, for the small business owner to see like, oh, this is dedicated foot traffic and a dedicated sale if I just embed myself into this place for 2 hours, as an example.
Right. I'm guaranteed business.
Right. So it's a win-win for both parties. And that place of work, again, whether it's a hospital cafeteria or a corporate cafeteria, now there's some variety and also connection to community that wasn't there before.
I love it. I love it. And then there's a kind of, this is kind of a follow-on to what you're just talking about. Curate Connect. I read somewhere that you'd shifted about $30,000 alone this summer to pop up hot bar takeovers. That sounds interesting. I want to hear more about that. And staff appreciation events back into the community with your buyer partner, University of Maryland Medical Center.
Yeah.
It sounds like you really care about the community, and this is dovetailing really well into why you're on the board at Land Betterment. And that's going to be our final topic. And you've said so many things already, like, this is clearly why she's on the board. She doesn't want to do things the way the world has done them before, which is all about Land Betterment. So tell me about the University of Maryland.
Yeah, so they've been one of our buyer partners since 2018, and they have been such an incredible ally and commitment to wanting to, again, shift their dollar. That's our versioning hashtag, shift the dollar, back into their local community. And what I was just describing before around this coupling of staffing shortages plus wanting to bring joy to our healthcare heroes, right? How could we bring some liveliness to the workplace, especially over the summer? And so we had this summer pop-up series where those businesses integrated into these hot bars. You've probably been in a space where there's like a pizza station and a burger station,
right?
Of
so
a cafeteria.
Hot bar.
Yeah, it's like hot food being
okay
at a bar, literally.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes they're also called action stations.
Okay, I like that
lingo. Yeah. So we thought, okay, this is a really, like I was just sharing, a unique opportunity to highlight local businesses who are also looking for that dedicated sale. And so we programmed the whole summer to have a rotating vendor list for all of the staff members each Monday and Wednesday to try a new local flavor inside their cafeteria, inside the place of work. And particularly with hospitals, you're on a time crunch, especially the staff. If you have a dedicated lunch break before you got to get back into your work.
Right.
And so physically leaving the hospital can also be hard. So to bring that to them was really, really fun.
And you're bringing, not only are you bringing food to them, you're bringing new and cool food,
Yeah.
and you're making them feel cared for,
Mhm.
which is so important these days.
Yeah, in fact, we're closing out at the end of this month this series, and because of people seeing the work that we did for the past 3 months with this pop-up takeover, there was actually an employee of the hospital whose family runs a food business and came to us and was like, oh, is it possible for us to have this opportunity? And so they're going to be one of our closeout vendors featured. So just a beautiful way to also support that staff member.
Yep.
Of course,
Yeah.
we had to vet and make sure that they were producing food in a sanitary space and make sure everything's okay. But yeah, that's going to be a really fun way to celebrate that staff.
So what a connector you are. You're such a busy woman.
That's why we call it Curate Connect. Yeah.
You're busy, busy, busy.
Mhm.
So as I said a couple minutes ago, so much of what you're doing is it's very similar, although a different industry, because land betterment's remediating land. But that team here is led by a team of entrepreneurs, and they're trying to do things differently. So what excites you most about being, a board of director on such a, groundbreaking company, which is so similar to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is 100% how the team and I bonded, was around that why that I was expressing earlier, around why do we have to keep doing the things that the way that they've been done, and seeing not just the entrepreneurial spirit, but also the facets of land betterment around entrepreneurial hub zone, or different businesses that are now being created from previous industries that are now gone, that we need to rethink a new business model for what those spaces might need to look like and generate. That workforce development piece has been really interesting to me as well. So that coupling of economic impact, workforce development, of course, there's a food component there to some pieces of the work.
Yep.
Just really aligned with who I am. And because Curate is in the Mid-Atlantic and also now the Heartland, I think that the Appalachian region is the next frontier for us to really work with the community and think about what new industry looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm really excited that land betterment is on the forefront of being a part of those conversations.
Yeah, and Appalachia really seems to be a place where there can be a lot of positive growth and change. And I have never been there. I'm such a New Englander, and I've never been to Arkansas. So I need to go on a little road trip like you
Yes.
did, for sure.
You should go down the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia, and
I
then
did that a little bit. I've driven down that to Florida, but I need to keep going
Ooh.
west, right?
Yeah, and then cut over, head on through like Tennessee, get down North Carolina, cut on over, keep on going, get to
Cool.
Arkansas.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so we drive out west to Colorado every fall because we move out there for the winter. So maybe we can take a side
Southern
part,
route instead
go
of
south.
yeah, that's a good
Absolutely.
idea.
Well, this has been fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this with all of our readers and all of our social media followers. I think they'll find it fascinating. So I really appreciate your time today, Kim. You're clearly a very busy woman.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Yeah. And anytime you have some people in Maine for us to work with, I'm all for it.
All right. I'll be sure to let you know when that happens, because I'm sure we could certainly use Curate in Maine. So thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.